What is it, Shark Week? Alright, I can roll with that. Today I'm making a Jaws barrel. I was gonna make a regular barrel, but I think every maker on the platform has beat me to that by now. So, Jaws barrel. Yeah, that's fresh. For this build, I used EVA foam, bevel foam, a length of rope, putty, paint, super glue, hot glue, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. In the movie Jaws, Quint uses these barrels to hunt sharks by harpooning them with a line attached to the barrels. The sharks tire out and are forced to return to the surface where they can be more easily hunted. Quint is basically the predator monster to sharks. Wait a minute, does that mean the predator alien is just a drunk? Like, to his people, is he just a drunk? There's Nebulac off to go hunt humans. Why does he do that? Well, you know, it's revenge for Roswell. I'll never put on a space jacket again. What were we doing? Oh yeah, make it a thing. I'm using yellow foam this time to cut down and paint, because if you've watched any of my videos, you know I hate to paint. I don't have time for that. But let's actually weather it. I cut off the puzzle pieces and then cut it down to size, using a metal block instead of a ruler to both weight it down and act as a straight edge. I sanded away the remnants of the puzzle pieces where I needed to, but since I'm building at this scale, it's significantly smaller than the actual barrels, I can also get away with just cutting away the rough edges with my work knife, as long as I keep it sharpened. I cut the edges at a slight angle to increase the surface area of the gluing surface. You know, thesaurus. Wait a minute. Superficial. Okay, that's... You have failed me, Microsoft Office. You have failed me. Oh yeah, thus strengthening it. Then I heated it up with a paint peeler. Y'all know what it is. Thanks, robot overlords. Heat formed it, rolled it up, and then I stuck it in a pitcher while it cooled. The top and bottom are tapered, so I needed to cut curved pieces, so I made those using part of a template from one of my helmet builds, or really just any curved shape. It looked like it'd work, and honestly I wanted to have fun with this build. I didn't want to do math for this build. So yeah, that looks right. I flipped it, I traced it, and I cut one out for the other side. Next, I heat formed the pieces. When it was sufficiently heated up, I pressed it over half of a giant novelty Easter egg that I'm using as a planishing iron, or anvil, to help shape the foam into a curved piece. Alright, moving on. By the time those were cut out, the first yellow sheet was cooled down, so I removed it from the pitcher. Better wash that. And glued the ends together. With super glue? Sure. Yeah, this can be a super glue build. There are plenty of other glues you can use, but the standard contact cement is kind of overkill. Plus, I don't have good ventilation in this apartment. So glad I'm out of there. Most people dread apartment life just for pests, you know, like rats. I had birds. How did, I don't even, is that like an evolution thing? Like an invasive species thing? Are the birds at war with rats? I don't know, I'm not a scientist. Then, after dealing with the nuances of apartment living, I reheat formed it because it's not quite a perfect cylinder. And then I attached the tapered end pieces from before, and then once those were formed, I glued them to the open ends of the cylinder. See, they gotta have a curve, they can't just be cones. Once those were glued on, I made the end caps. They're just circles. It's pretty straightforward. I think I used a peanut lid to trace. Then I glued them into the ends using hot glue. No, hey, hot glue. How about that? See, I actually built this a year ago, but I missed the Shark Week window, so I've forgotten most of this build. I have very little recollection of this. See, the videos are just a backup as my organic memory fails. This is like a time capsule for me. For the outer grooves, I'm using bevels, just to save time, and they also cover the seams. You can make these by sanding them. I found an old helmet where I did that, but it's a lot of time and very messy. For vertical seams, I use putty. So that takes roughly half an hour to cool, so I took a break for lunch. It was a turkey club, if anyone was wondering. Then I came back to it, and now I don't have to worry about smearing the putty while I work on it. I took the puzzle strip from the edge and cut the pieces off. Then I sanded it on my belt sander and glued it into the top. Or bottom? I think it's the bottom. Yeah, because the top has caps. Then I painted the white parts yellow. See, that's the drawback to using pre-manufactured parts. You save time and work, but then you lose time and paint. Unless the prop is supposed to be white, like a lot of mine are. That definitely influences my prop choices. Come to think of it, my props are kind of monochromatic. I gotta fix that. I put painter's tape on it to mark where the cutout should go. Then I cut them out, but not all the way. I cut the top and the sides and just pressed them in a bit. Then I glued them down. Wait, I also heat formed them, it looks like. So I guess I cut them all the way out. I don't know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Just ask an old-timey violin maker. You ever think that old-timey violin makers were just psychos that found a socially acceptable career path? But then I cut into the top some more. The knife dulls out super fast when cutting into foam, so the edges will get rougher as you go, hence the sharpening. I think I've covered that in 400 other videos. Seriously, it's allergy season right now for me, and the soundboard is doing a lot of heavy lifting. To counteract the rough cut that I inevitably get, I sanded it with my rotary tool. Then I glued in a circle to keep it cylindrically shaped. After that, I glued in a circular detail on top of it, but slightly smaller and with cutouts for the caps. Then I made the caps by cutting them out of scrap floor mat foam. First a circle that I cut in half for the threaded part. Doesn't actually need to be threaded. I just wanted the cap raised a bit. Adds a little bit of detail. And then a slightly wider diameter circle for the cap itself. I had to sand that a bit to make it a more perfect circle. I also pressed a hole puncher into the top just to get the indentation. Then I cut grooves in it with my work knife. Then I heated up the foam, which will cause the cracks to open up a bit. You don't want to do this too long though, because the foam will burn. And that's the basic barrel. Now we need to clean it up a bit. I filled in all the new seams with putty and added a second bevel. I added a bevel on the interior just because I feel like the actual barrels were vacuum formed, and this kind of matches the over-conforming shape. Does that make sense? Whatever. I thought it, so I did it. Argue in comments. Then painted over those with yellow. But now it's too clean. So let's scuff it up. So in the movie, the implication is that... just thinking of it's always sunny. The implication is that... 98, that makes cutoff, is that it's black plastic that's been painted yellow so that Quint can see it against the ocean. That's why you're supposed to paint submarines yellow, Stockton. However, the paint is worn away from where the barrel is scraped against the guardrails or been worn down by the ropes. So I painted flat black into the groove where the rope would have rubbed against it. Then I painted black on all of the raised edges where they would have rubbed against any hard surface. It's kind of the opposite of the typical weathering that I do. It's the opposite of weathering a prop that's supposed to be metal. Also, I'm using flat black to match the movie, but there's nothing wrong with gloss black because that'll make it look wet, which yeah, it works for an ocean-going prop. Then I did some random scratches on the body of the barrel, trying to match some of the shots from the movie. The heaviest was on the bottom, where it would have been scratched the most, as it's been repeatedly, violently ripped away from the boat. See, the weathering tells a story, and in this case it tells the story of a man who's been at this for years, as he's consumed with revenge. He tasks me, and I shall have him. Yes, that's the Orca versus the USS Sharkterprise. I am just a conglomeration of movie references now. Then I took some scrap boat rigging from my sailboat, which my parents sold, and I tied it around the top of the barrel using a bowline knot. Hey, the first time my BSA training has ever come in handy. Nah, I'm sure I've tied knots before. Every time I tie my shoelaces. Yeah, I don't think I've ever needed to start a fire. And that's how to make a Jaws barrel for pool parties. My friends hate me at pool parties. You can also make it blue to paralyze a Klingon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons. These videos just wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. So if you enjoy these builds, want to see more of them, and want your build request to carry a bit more weight, then think about heading on over to the Patreon page, where you can enjoy ad-free early uploads. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving the video quality and shop equipment, as well as allowing me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you on the channel. Also, they cover more elaborate test films, which we are in desperate need of budget for more elaborate test films. Yeah, here we are on the set of Pause. Get it? Last time I worked with a schnoodle. Huh? Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later. Was that it? Oh, we're short. Dead air. Here's some more schnoodle footage. Oh, there it is. So close, yet so far. Cat powers activate.